So this talk is going to show you a few tools so that you can move from being a user as of 2 days ago to a developer as of today. We're going to cover a few pieces. The ins and outs of developing YT. This is forks, pull requests, and Bitbucket, how they all interact. Then we're going to talk about a really cool thing called the YT Hub, which is a place where you can store useful scripts, anything from useful scripts to interfaces to external tools, any sort of interaction that you have with YT that doesn't necessarily belong in the YT source code. Then we'll talk a little bit about projects that are open for development if anybody gets interested. So, you have some cool idea, or you found some bug fix. What do I do? Well, assuming that now you all are set up with the Bootstrap dev, and you've gone through and made your own Bitbucket account, what you could do is visit the YT analysis homepage, do something called fork it, which I'm going to show you in a minute, do some work, commit your changes, push those changes, and then submit it to the community to say, I think this is ready. Someone please take a look at it real quick to verify that I didn't break YT, and go ahead and get it accepted. So, how does this work? So what I'm going to do is, in real time, I'm going to go visit the YT analysis repository. For this part, don't follow along for now, because we'll just end up making a ton of forks for no real reason. So I'm just gonna, so this is the YT Bitbucket homepage, YT analysis /YT. And I'm gonna go and click this little thing that says fork. Now, just for reference, there's already a bunch of these things. There's 31, and so you see a lot of the people in this room have already done this fork operation for various projects. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fork this stuff, and I'm going to say YT workshop demo, and it's going to fork it at the tip of the repository, and now Bitbucket is going to make an identical clone of that repository, and now I can visit this. This is now hosted in my Bitbucket username /YT workshop demo. So now at this point, if I wanted to, I could just clone this repository and do as much changes on it as I want, continue to push changes back up to this particular repository, and not have to worry about messing up the main central YT source code. So, I don't know what that is. What I'm going to do is clone this repository, because I'm going to work on it here. Go into where I have my source. You can see that I already have like 5 of these forks doing other projects. But I'm going to go ahead and clone this. It's going to go through and yell up a bunch of things about certificates, which I guess have caused some issues lately, but hopefully things are somewhat working. This takes a little while because there's now up to like, I think 12,000 changes or something in YT over 5,000 change sets. Yeah. Okay, so now I have this YT workshop demo. And you can see this is a full copy, full clone of the original YT repository on Bitbucket. So now I'm going to go in and I know for a fact that there's probably something wrong in the camera documentation. So I'm going to go in here and let's see if we can find something. I'm just going to do some little changes here. Steven Scory will talk later about how we like to document things. There's a few standards that I've ignored while writing these things originally, and that is we like to put keywords in here with no spaces. And so I'm going to go through and fix all these. Not exactly the most useful changes in the world, but appreciated nonetheless. Let's see, a couple more. Okay, now that looks great to me. I'm going to write that out. I'm going to look at what I've done here, and that's the diff of what I've done for this change set. I'm going to go ahead and commit it locally. Fixing some docs. HGCI is just a shortcut for HGCommit. So I could do this, and it's the same thing. Thanks. And -M, I'm going to put the documentation of this change set, the change set log, directly in here. Okay, so now if I look at my log, I can see that I've just fixed some docs. Great. Now I can look at what's going to happen if I push these change sets. And it tells me up here that it's going to compare with my fork that I've created on Bitbucket. This is not going to push by default to the main YT repository. This is kind of nice because maybe somebody didn't like the way I documented those changes. But it's my own repo, so I'm going to just go ahead and push those. Enter in my username and password. And fine. Now that's done. Now if I refresh this page, I see that I've fixed some docs. Okay, so even though that's not a big change, you may have been working on something more invasive, like you're changing the way a particular front end handles data. Who knows? But I think this is good. I'm now going to say I'd like to pull these changes in. I'm going to send this pull request. Actually, first I'm going to compare what the changes are between my fork of the repository and the main one. So I'm going to hit this compare fork. And all this says is that this is what's changed between my fork and the YT analysis fork of YT, the main branch. Does this make sense to everyone so far? Okay. So, and oh, by the way, a really cool way to view this is side by side, because it gives you exactly what's changed, and it'll even handle viewing how extra lines and getting rid of lines have changed. So I recommend looking at that one. I'll go back and show that again. So it's side by side. Really useful for complex change sets. Okay, so it's done. I'm going to send this pull request. I'm going to say fixing some bad docs. Removing spaces in keywords. Keyword arguments. Okay, create this pull request. And it's done. Now, what's happened is that myself, Matt, Britton, a number of other YT developers have now received an email saying that Sam Skillman has asked for this pull request to go through. One of us fairly quickly will probably go through and say, hey, that looks pretty good. I'm either going to accept it, or if it looks bad, I'm going to go back and comment in this pull request and say, well, you really screwed this up. Why don't you change it, and then I'll accept it. So let's see. If you look now at the YT analysis, it looks like there's one pull request here. That's mine. Earlier today, there were 3 outstanding, which over the course of the day, we've gone ahead and accepted. And so now, I can click on this. And oh, it looks like Jeff Oishi beat me to the punchline, and he's accepted these changes, and all changes have been pulled into the repository. And if you look over on the YT IRC channel, it looks like, hey, those changes have gone through. So that's great. Thank you, Jeff. Uh, that's right. And so now, if I go back and look at the commits to this repository, you can see in this change log, I'm the one who got credit for writing those changes to the docs. So even though Jeff, as he said, accepted that pull request, it doesn't go under his name, and you get all the credit for your hard work. I think this will go down in history as the best change set in the YT repository. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Did that workflow make sense to everyone? So the main point is this is a really, really nice way to allow you to code on your own fork of the YT source code and commit along, test your changes. Maybe you have to test your changes on a different computer. So now you can pull from that computer from your fork, and you don't ever have to touch the main repository until this is all ready to go. You submit your pull request, and one of us, the cloud of developers, will go ahead and review them and accept them. And it provides a really nice way for integrating everyone's changes. Okay, from the rest of the developers, is there anything else I should mention about forking? Sure. Oh, yes, good point. Hey, look at that. Someone's made a comment on that change set, and it's the greatest one in history. Yep. And another cool thing about that is that if Jeff had commented on my fork itself, after I submitted that pull request and things had been moved into the main branch, those comments follow along into the main YT repository. So that's a really cool feature to keep track of all the progress that we've been making. Yeah. Right, you don't have to follow along maniacally to see if anybody's commented. Right. Yeah. Okay. Does everybody feel confident that if they wanted to add something to the code, they would know how to fork YT, make some changes, commit it back up, and submit a pull request? Does anybody not feel comfortable with that? Remember, you can always go on the YT IRC channel and ask around. Great. Yeah. So all I would have to do, so right now, is that true? Okay.
Any pull requests that don't have conflict can be merged right in the web interface.
Where does...
This one was done so. I didn't type in that commit message. That's the default.
Yeah, but I think the other question was, how do you get the new commits from YT analysis YT back into your own fork? Yeah. And so is there a web interface or? No. Right, but it tells you how to do it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, I'll find one of my ones that I haven't updated. Okay, so this is where I was working on the grid data format for a while. I'm going to compare this fork to the current one and look at incoming. And it's going to wait a while because there's probably quite a few change sets. And right here it says, this is how to pull it in. And so, yeah, so this says to merge these changes into my fork, this is what you do. And you do this in the directory of your fork on your local computer. Okay? Great. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We utilize this for developing Enzo. It's a really useful way to kind of provide a little bit of a barrier between bad change sets and your code. and a way to announce that there's something new and exciting that comes in, because we all get an announcement saying this pull request has come in to add support for this data format or something. So. Right. Right. Yes.
Is there a record of who accepts a change set?
There is, I think.
For finger pointing for
So here it says, if I take a look at this, oh, yep, there it is. So right here. Okay. Yes. All right. I'm going to move on then. Okay. Here's the next use case of all you new developers. I have a useful tool. It's a script or it's an interface to an external analysis kit. What should I do with this tool so that other people can utilize it? This is something that doesn't necessarily belong in some directory in the YT source code. Well, we have this great new thing that we started called the hub. And so what I'm going to do is just show you a demo of this. And I'm going to post a new item to the hub. So this is at hub.yt-project.org. And if you go on there, you can see that there's a bunch of tools that people have added. There's something that, let's see, this is something that Nathan Goldbaum has submitted to calculate the TombRayQ parameter. And so that points to a whole Bitbucket repository of his source code to do this. I uploaded this one before this workshop, and it's an example of how to make a fisheye rendering. So these are the types of things that you might put on the hub. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the hub. If you're a first-time user, you need to register for the hub if you're going to start up a new one. Is that?
We should note that we have a spam problem, so it may take a while for your account to be approved.
Yeah, we have a bunch of like spam people trying to get accounts. So
If you are not getting fast enough service with that, you should just send an email to the list.
yeah,
At this point, because we are getting spam submissions at extremely high rates with respect to the actual rate of actual submissions, we approve them manually. But it's just a question of going into the money.
yeah,
But maybe we forgot that bit, so just send it.
right. Yeah. So once you've registered and you've gotten through the mighty gatekeepers and getting a username and password, you can go in here, log in, and say I've got a new project. There's a web interface. I'm going to show you this but not complete this, and I'm going to show you another way from the command line how to do this. So you can go on here, you can submit a new project, and you can give it a project URL to some repository hopefully on Bitbucket, just to keep these all easily done, but you can put in whatever you want. And it'll go through and you'll be asked what you want to title it. You can give it a description. You can add screenshots, all sorts of stuff. But what I'm going to do is use the command line interface. So I'm going to go into my scripts group here. So I showed you guys this yesterday. I guess this is a way to enhance images. And so I'm going to finally put this up on the hub so that it's a permanent addition to your toolkit. So to remind you, this is something that takes in a list of files and enhances them in some way that I've deemed nice. So I'm going to do YT help because I don't quite remember the syntax, but there's something on there called hub submit. So I'm going to do YT hub submit, and because I don't remember, I'm going to do this. And it tells me that it's going to create a repo for me if it's necessary. In this case, I'm gonna make a directory real quick. So now it's inside this directory. I'm going to do YT hub submit. So yes, I would like to create a repo. And it's going to be, because it couldn't find a repository in the current directory I'm in. If this was already an HG repository, it would know what to do. So yes, create this repo. Wait. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to hit enter, I think. No. Oh, I have to type yes the whole thing. Yes. My repository is not yet on Bitbucket. As far as I can tell, would I like to create a repository there and upload to it? Without this, I have no idea what URL to submit. So this is going to help you along in this process. And as long as you actually do what you're told here, it should work. So I'm going to type yes to upload it to Bitbucket. It's going to create the repository rendering enhancement. That's why I put that in that directory there. And then it's going to upload it to that. So I'm going to hit enter to continue. Okay, it says that it knows what my Bitbucket username is because I used the YT bootstrap dev command earlier. I'm going to enter in my super secret password. And now it says it's created the repository. It's now going to set this at the default path. And it's going to create a HGRC file to keep track of everything. That's fine. Yes. All right. It's now ready to push to it. It's now ready to submit to the hub. What is your hub username? It's that same one that you registered earlier. I'm going to input my password. OK. Now it says, is this a news, documents, simulation management, data management, analysis and visualization, paper repositories, astrophysical utilities, and YT scripts? That by itself tells you what kind of stuff we'd love to see submitted to the hub. OK, what category number does this fit in? I'm going to say that this fits in analysis and visualization, I suppose. Yeah, I think that. Or YT scripts. Either one would be fine. Yeah. OK, what's the title of this submission? It's enhance your renderings. What tags do I want to add? Well, I'm going to add YT. I'm going to add utility, separate it with commas because that's what it tells me to do, and maybe some visualization. As long as I type it right. OK. Do I want a summary? This script takes in a list of PNG files, PNG images, renormalizes the colors, and outputs an enhanced version. Okay, I think that's good enough. Okay, we're ready to submit. Enter to submit, Control C to back out. Submit complete. We're successful. Now let's go back to this hub. And we've got a new hub project. You can now go here. What? Yeah. And you go into the source, and you can see that there's your enhance.py, and you can grab the raw script. And so now all of you know where to find a place to make your renders look great. Exactly. So now this rendering enhancement is just one of my many Bitbucket repositories. So I can treat it as any other project that I'm working on, submit changes, ask people to fork it, change stuff, submit their pull requests, I'll accept it, and we go from there. And the hub will just track all, it'll just point to this repository, so it's always going to be the current version. Yeah, so let's see. Let's see what we have in terms of utilities, or rather analysis and visualization. So we have some rendering stuff. We have, yeah. Let's go to the home and just go through this real quick. So this is something that Nathan's written to analyze Flash 2.5 data. It uses parallel objects, so that's a good way to go look to see how you can use this in a real setting. Uses the fixed resolution buffer. Here's something from Britain that makes fancy multi-panel plots. That looks like a great project if you're preparing to do some publications. We've seen a few ways to do this now. Here's something that Britain wrote on archiving Nix Kraken data. So nothing YT related really at all in this case. But it's something where it's an automated way to archive your data on Kraken and have it take care of that. Here's something from Stephen Scory looking at how you view your YT data sets online. There's a bunch of this stuff. Let's see what else we got.
It doesn't have to be related to YT.
Right.
Script, like that.
Yeah. Maybe you want to just point to a bunch of scripts that you use to write your paper. Go ahead and put it there. Feel free to post news articles if you want about some cool new simulation. Yeah, yeah.
In fact, yeah. I said that you could, on your archive submission, you could add a link to your Bitbucket repository for your paper.
Yeah. There is an announcement that, hey, Enzo had a workshop in the fall of 2011. So anything that you feel the community here that you see in this room might be interested in, go ahead and post it up. Anybody have any more questions about the YT hub? Yes. So you can also subscribe to the emails by hitting the subscribe button. And you enter in your email address and try to figure out what that actually says. And you'll be subscribed and you'll get emails each time one of these hub projects is submitted and possibly updated. Probably just submitted. Yeah.
Maximum of one per day.
Right. It'll be a digest form. So we're looking forward to the day where we're getting 10 of these a day. So okay. All right. Finally, after these 3 days, I really love YT. What can I do to help? Well, just a few possible projects that I'd love to see this break up into groups later today in our last couple hours here. If anybody wants to add a new code front end, think about what a new code front end should look like. Maybe you have some interface to an external analysis. John showed us a bunch, and Chris Moody has something on exporting to Sunrise. You can talk about adding these new ways to get data into a different analysis toolkit. If over the last 3 days there's a feature that didn't work for your particular data, come up and collaborate with us and help us figure out what's going on. We're happy to help to understand what's happened, and we love to squash bugs as much as we can. And then a few particular projects, if anybody wants to work on them, are things like the parallel clump finder. Somebody mentioned trying to show streamlines and volume renders in the same frame so that you can integrate those two. That'd be great for someone to work on. Maybe you want to add keyboard shortcuts to Reason, so you can, Cameron just showed us a great demonstration of how to interact with that. Maybe you want to add a new widget. You know, we have slice and projection, and you can view the grids. Maybe you want to add something particular, a cutting plane, who knows, anything. These are just a few items, but part of the goals of this workshop was to introduce everyone to YT and get everyone up to speed so that you too can become a developer and pursue the pieces of analysis that aren't possible to you that you'd like to see in the future. And so with that, go forth and code. Thank you very much.